So my thoughts on the current situation at Caterham, Matt, to be honest with you, they're in a mess. They are in a real mess. I know they've had a new investment, but Christian Albert has got a massive job on his hands to help rejuvenate Caterham, and Caterham have got to score points, and they've got to score more than 2 points if they stand a chance of finishing above Marussia and to get that all-important 10th place in the constructors. Can I see it happening? No, I can't. Caterham, it's been a difficult 2014 for them. It's a perfect point you make there, Andrew. I'm not sure why people take on Colin Coles, but what I will say is that Colin has experience, and yes, he has been at teams that have finished last, like the Midland, HRT, and now he's part of the consortium-led group that's just invested into Caterham. Now, Colin does have experience, so his experience, I believe, will help Caterham in the future, for at least this season anyway. But like I said, Caterham are in a real mess, and Christian Albers and Colin Coles have a big job on their hands to save Caterham's season and to rejuvenate the team. You know what, Andrea? It was fantastic to see Williams right up there in Austria. It really was. And you remember the 90s, particularly the early 90s, where Williams were a dominant force. They were a real force in Formula One, and you just wonder, how has it come to a situation where I think from you could even say the late 2000s, and particularly when I remember the season, I think it was 2011, 2012, where Williams had Rubens Barrichello and Pastor Maldonado as the driver lineup. They didn't even score more than 10 points, and for a team like Williams, when you consider their prestige, their history, they should not be struggling. They should be right up there, challenging the likes of Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes. So what we saw in Austria was refreshing, and it was great to see. It could have been a whole lot better for Williams. Had they played out a better strategy, then perhaps Massa and both Bottas could have been challenging for the win. But nevertheless, it was great to see Valtteri on the podium for the first time in his Formula One career in Austria. So that was great to see. And yeah, I really hope Williams can kick on from here. And hopefully we can see a lot more of Williams challenging the big boys from now till the end of the season. So which team should we look out for in the second half of the season? I've just mentioned Williams. I think they had a fantastic result in Austria. Could have been better, like I said earlier, but Williams, to get that third and fourth place and to translate their high qualifying in Austria to a decent haul of points for the team. Now that'll give them confidence, and that'll give them belief that they can go on to have a strong second half of the season. I think Williams potentially could be the team to watch out for in the second half of the season. If Austria is a sign of things to come, then Williams will definitely be in the hunt for race victories from now to the end of the season. I also think Force India. I think in Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg, very strong driver lineup. They've already proven, both Perez and Hulkenberg, that they can drive great race and get great results for the team. We saw in Austria, Perez started 16th after his 5-place penalty from what happened in Canada, and he finishes 6th. So that was a great drive from Sergio, and you just wonder, and I know I said this already, but had Sergio not had that 5-place drop, he could so easily have been challenging for a podium place. So I think Force India, they're another team that you have to watch out for in the second half of the season. But if I had to pick between the two, I would go for Williams. And now you're hoping Austria can be a kickstart for their season, and hopefully Williams can challenge for full race victories from now to the end of the season. So for me, Williams are the team to watch out for in the second half of the season, with Force India in a close second. So my favourite memory of the British Grand Prix, great question, Chris, thank you so much for sending this in. I've been following Formula 1 since '96, and so many great memories, so many great British Grand Prix. David Coulthard won the British Grand Prix twice. Lewis Hamilton has won there in 2008 in tricky conditions, to say the least. Yeah, that was a great memory that I have. But the one memory that stands out for me, I went to Silverstone for the first time in 2007, and I remember I sat in the main stand in qualifying, so the old main stand, and we were right opposite the paddock, and I remember Lewis Hamilton got pole that day, and the roar, when it was announced that Lewis was on pole for the British Grand Prix in 2007, the roar that not only in the main grandstand, but all around the circuit was just absolutely incredible. The atmosphere was fantastic, and the crowd absolutely loved it. To see a rookie, as he was then, Lewis, to put the car on pole in his first British Grand Prix in a McLaren was just absolutely incredible. So for me, Lewis Hamilton putting the car on pole, putting his McLaren on pole in 2007, for me, that's my favourite British Grand Prix memory. So who will win the British Grand Prix this weekend? You're definitely putting me on the spot there, aren't you, Liam? You can't, Mercedes, you'd think that this should be another track that suits them, their car, and I think Nico Rosberg, having that 29-point advantage, he'll want to extend that gap. But you know what? I think Lewis will be so fired up for this weekend. He'll definitely want to win in front of his home crowd, and of course he'll want to close that gap between himself and Nico Rosberg in the Drivers' Championship. So I think Lewis, with the home crowd behind him, and the energy that the home crowd will give him, and the fact that Lewis will want to win in front of his home crowd, who was very unlucky not to win last year. Without that tyre failure, I'm sure Lewis would have gone to win that race. But this year, I think Lewis will do it. I think Lewis Hamilton will win this year's British Grand Prix. As to who will challenge Mercedes, I think Ferrari. I think Alonso, he traditionally, he goes well at Silverstone, so Fernando could be someone to watch out for. Red Bull need to up their game after a disappointing Austrian Grand Prix. And watch out for Williams and Force India. I think those two teams again could spring a surprise, and potentially we could be in for a wet qualifying on Saturday. So that could shake things up, and we could see a mixed up grid, which would be great to see. But if I have to predict as to who will win the British Grand Prix, I would go for Lewis Hamilton. So that's the end of this week's Ask Manish. Thank you very much for sending in your questions, and do keep them sending in your F1 questions to @baggies20 on Twitter, and I look forward to reading them. But for now, cheerio.